You all are into the day, 6 o'clock, dinner plans. Let's hit it. All right, so I'm going to set the stage here. Did Mike Spicer appear in the room? He's not here yet. Okay, perfect. It's even better this way. All right, so I'm in the Black Hat NOC, and we have a trainer who's come up to me and said, hey, some of my students are having internet problems, not being able to connect to the labs. Overall, just a bad experience. Cool. Let's see what we can do about this. So we head over into that room and run a bunch of tests, check with the students. Everything's fine. Okay, so we leave. A few hours later, get the same, literally the same thing. Some of my students can't connect to the labs. All right, so now we're back. Now we're back to intermittent, so we're going to go and do some further tests. Spend a little longer, spend time with half the people who had issues. They're all happy. Everything's good. Great. Sounds good. 2 hours later, repeat the same thing. Go in there. Some students having internet issues. All right, so at this point, we're past like something's weird. Sometimes access points, especially ones near airports, they get a flag that it's matched in a frequency of an airliner, and then they reboot and shut down. And if you didn't know that, that's a thing you can know now. So sometimes intermittent issues happen. But the same thing repeated over and over, now we got to look into it. So we start diving into the logs, and we see that actually it looks like there's a scenario here where some people are on a separate DHCP server. And that shouldn't be the case. So did we misconfig something? Nope. There's something in that room adding a little extra DHCP. There's Mike Spicer. He was here on that investigation. And digging into those logs, we realized that there's a lot more going on, and there's one user in particular who's being extra special. Right? Let's call him Bob. Because his actual name was Bob. I think it was actually. Was it really Bob, right? I think it was. Yeah, it was Bob. Because for a long time after that, we would be like, classic Bob when we see something weird, right? That's why I remember Bob. Maybe not Bob in case this is recorded. It could be something else. So we go into that. We get the same. Some students having internet issues for their labs. Cool. So we go in there. Hey, which one of these guys is Bob? That guy, a person who I've actually sat down next to, who had internet issue, and I've worked through it with them, and everything was fine. Okay. So I sit down next to Bob, and this time, I'm not leaving until I know what the freak is happening. And so I start saying, hey, are you running a separate DHCP server on your machine? No. Bob's playing dumb, right? And I'm not sure he's playing dumb or is just doesn't understand what's happening yet. So I suss out, and I'm going a little bit further. All right, well, let's go look at your adapters. Right? Simple enough. It's a Windows box. Let's look at the adapters. Sure, Bob doesn't know how to get there. We're taking a long time trying to get to these adapters. We're going every other way, so much that I wanted to take the mouse from Bob and click on the right things. And I'm being very explicit on where to go, and he's going to the wrong places. And I think at that point, Mike walked up behind me, and I think Bob realized we're not leaving, right? So he goes to adapters, and there's a stack of them, right? I don't know if you ever opened up your Windows adapters. You have a Wi-Fi and a LAN, and maybe you have a VM. This dude had like a page of them. And there's active one, and it's a DHCP server. I'm like, that one, that's the thing. This is the problem. Oh, that DHCP server. I was doing some wireless testing and from my cell phone, and I was doing them. I don't care, turn it off. Turn it off, Bob. So Bob turns it off, and no more issues. I go and ask the trainer later, hey, did those issues resolve? Yeah, no more issues. And any other things going on with Bob? Oh, Bob left. Bob left? Yeah, Bob left. Now, these classes ain't cheap. Black Hat classes, I don't pay for them, but 6,000 plus, they're not cheap. So to leave a class is always interesting. But Bob left, didn't come back. Bob was probably a very smart person. Bob probably knew exactly what he was doing. or just was bored. Either way, that leads into where we're going. All right, so who am I real fast? I'm James Pope. Everybody calls me Pope because there's lots of Jameses and it's my last name, and whatever else thing tried to stick, this always just did. So my day job, I am the technical marketing director for our technical marketing engineering department and enablement department. I also sit on our con team and OS champs. That just means I like doing nerdy stuff. OS champs is Zeek, Suricata, and Yara. We do a lot of open source. We're the maintainers of Zeek, right? Network visualizer tool or network telemetry tool and detections. It's free, open source, go get it, right? I also am the SOC lead for the Black Hat NOC, which is where most of this is gonna come from today. I help run a few security conferences. Most of these are here in Utah, specifically SaintCon. I book all of our premier speakers and keynotes, so if you ever go to SaintCon, it's this October. It's in Provo. So it's another Park City, Provo, the other side. And then I booked our keynote for B-Side Salt Lake, and I help run B-Sides Cache. That's where I live, is up in Cache Valley here in Utah. And I started up a local DEF CON group up there. I don't know, 20, 40 strong every month that we do up in Cache Valley. What's that?
Right now.
Right, oh, it's going on right now. Yeah, Eldon is presenting right at this moment, right now. I'm sad I couldn't be there for it, but I'm here with y'all. So I do a lot of things like this for the community. I do own a company on the side called Pope Tech, and it's a web accessibility company. It has nothing to do with security, but that's kind of my background. Did IT, did pen testing for a bit, was a SOC analyst for a bit, did threat hunting for 3+ years, VP of IT for, I don't know, IT since 2000. How about that? Okay, so Black Hat. This is a conference. It's in Vegas, it's in Asia, and it's in Europe. So there's 3 of them per year, and we run a NOC out of it, and we have SOC operations as well. So that's where the story and the discussions that we're going to be going over today come from. The left of how it started is before I came into the picture, but they used to use everything open source, rolled their own, all human power, but the conference was substantially smaller than it is today, which is 20,000+ people who attend this conference, right? It looks like this now on the right, and if you look closely, you can find dark matter somewhere in there probably. And this is the operations we run now, which is, I don't know, 60, 80 people in there. And we have a luxury that pretty much no other org has. I guess that's not true. Big orgs can have this, but we probably have on shift at all time 15 to 20 hunters. And we run shifts throughout the con. We're always there doing this thing, right? So we're focused, we're locked in. So this is the environment. Just picture like there's music going, the lights are low, there's some movie on the wall, some hacker movie. That's the environment. If you've ever gone to Black Hat, it's open. It's like a fish bowl. You can come in and look at us in here and feed fish over, feed some food over the top for us fishies.
And watch us on Twitch.
And there is a Twitch stream. Yeah, that's fair. There's like 3 viewers ever, but there's a Twitch stream as well. You can find it like Black Hat NOC or something like that. This is how it works. We have a bunch of partners, Cisco, Palo Alto, Arista, Corelight, and they provide people and tools to accomplish this. There's no buying your way in. It is chosen. We have a need. We go and shop for that need. So there is no like, oh, I really want to have my tool part of the NOC. That's not how it works. We look at where our gaps are or where the markets are going, and we pull in the right tool for the right job. So these are we call them partners because they actually are partners. We work with them to make the network available, and we work with them to make it secure. These are the people and the heads of those teams. I'm in there somewhere. I didn't make this one, or I wouldn't look like that. Mike's in there. Neil's in there. Mom and Dad, Neil and Bart. All right, so the evolution of this. So the NOC starts, and it's just, we have highly skilled people. We had initially, and we still do. That's actually my favorite reason that I participate in it, is I get to go sit next to people smarter than me for a week straight, and I always learn something. And not a thing. I end up with just lists of things to do and try. It's like going to a conference. Already just sitting over there, adding a list of all these things to do, AI that I'm doing wrong with the thing I'm doing. I get such a level up in my brain from being next to highly skilled people. And we did threat hunting. One of the objectives is to have findings at the end of the conference, and so we hunt through. And that's been true since pretty much we have that ability to do so. And I've been in the NOC for a decade plus, but Neil's been doing it for like 20 years, right? I mean, he's getting old at this point. His hair should start looking like mine. So then we start moving into detections, right? So we're going past hunting. We can make detections. We can have highly valuable detections. But we ran into some problems with our detections, and that is we have a bunch of really good detections that are true positive detections in any other situation. But in Black Hat, we let it go, right? So if you go on the Black Hat Network and you run Tor, do we block you? No, we're going to let that go. Maybe that's your class. Maybe you're training. Maybe you're teaching. Maybe you're doing something. In a corporate environment, you're probably like, nah, we're probably not going to do that unless we're like a journalist trying to get submit feedback to us anonymously or something. We also run into actual attacks. If you go to a class and you pay a lot of money to be in that class, they are teaching students how to run attacks on real things. AWS environments that are owned by the trainer or GCP or Azure or local things, they are running attacks. So I can't categorize those as false positive. That's a positive. That's a good detection. But for Black Hat, we call this a Black Hat positive because I couldn't come up with a better name. Which means it's a real hit, but in Black Hat, carry on, right? Run your malware, do your thing, carry on. What I care about are actual positives. And so in my head, outside of Black Hat positives, these are things like attacking each other. A student making another student's experience bad. A vendor on the trade show floor attacking another person, bad, right? Classroom to classroom attacks, bad. It doesn't matter if you're red team and they're blue team, you still can't do that without permission to do that. There has been some times that that's happened, but you can't do that. And no attacking the infrastructure. This is the one I care the most about, being a SOC lead for the NOC, is our own stuff. The APs, the switches, the registration systems, the backbone, the VLANs, the interconnections, we don't want our stuff being compromised. You can't do that, right? Even if you're learning hacking tools, you can't turn around and go illegally hack stuff. And external stuff. Yes, on the Black Hat Network, attacking a payment processor is still illegal. It's still illegal at Black Hat. You can't do that, right? Attacking your local police precinct is also still illegal. These are just random examples that are definitely not real things. Attacking, I gotta make this one super vague, but industrial control systems, country to country, is also illegal. And if you just look at it from a detection standpoint, it's a ton of noise. And this does mirror a lot of enterprise. We have a luxury of we can sit there in real time tuning detections. We have expert people at tuning these detections and rules. Most orgs don't have that. They'll have a detection engineering department, or sometimes it's combined, and they do work on that. But it's usually like a change process, submit this thing, it's going to take some period of time to get back to you. But even with our tuned rules, we end up with too much noise because they're real attacks. Real things are happening. So I'm setting all this as a stage as to where we're headed. We decided we need to start looking at things like ML, machine learning. We need to get better at this to understand the real things that matter inside this noise. Also AI, thus the topic of this conversation. Detections in the Black Hat NOC with AI and ML. All right, the stage is set. You understand the pain we're going through. Much like an organization, all these detections rolling in. We've tuned and curated as much as we can, but these are still real, and there's a lot of them. One class can have 150 people in it. Trainers like, let's all launch this thing. All 150 hosts are now doing a detection that's a real detection. And that's one class out of 100, right? It's a lot of noise. And I want to know the things that I care the most about. Infrastructure, each other, external. I want to let the others go, but I can't just ignore it if it is real. So we got to pay attention. Okay, so let's get into ML. ML for a lot of years has been thrown around, and most of the time when I looked into it, it was just like, yeah, is that ML? So let's exclude a correlation rule, because anybody can make a correlation rule. And we're going to focus on actual ML, and I'm not that guy, I'm not the math guy. But Black Hat, we have them math guys show up, right? So if you want the math guy questions, I can give you an email address to ask. I didn't do so well in math, but I do conceptually understand and set use cases for them to execute and deliver on. All right, so one of those goals was initially I wanted classroom profiling, right? We have all these classrooms. I want to profile these classrooms. And I want to know it's in a classroom, and then B, I want to know who the outliers are in that classroom. If 160 people all are running the same attack from the same source to the same destination, I don't care. That's what they paid they paid money to be there to do that thing. It's the Bob over in the corner who's lobbing attacks at actual things inside of that noise. We call it finding needles in needles, right? You know, they say find the needles in the haystacks. In Black Hat, it's like, well, it's all needles. We just want to know the most prickly needle, the ones that are actually going to like poke me and hurt. You know, the rest of these kind of hurt, but it's fine. Let them go. Okay, so classroom profiling was on there. This is a new sexy term I heard. I hate it, but zero trust network architecture. Watching ourselves, watching our own backbone, watching our own tools. If one of our tools was compromised, if one of our switches was compromised, one of our access points, paying attention to our own backbone, right? So that was my second ask. And then third is just overall beacons. I want to know what real beacons are inside of this noise. So these were the three use cases that we put the brain trust of math people together. Go see if we can solve this with something like ML. They're like, yeah, we think we can do that. We're smarter than you. And I'm like, yes. Carry forth. Okay, so first we start with classroom beacons. This screen is washed out, and they're super small, but these are each of the classrooms. And if you were to look at this screen, it would scroll and scroll. These are 160 classrooms in here, right? We got big overall groupings, and you can say, this little grouping over here, well, they're all together. That's probably not something I'm as interested in. It's the one not together. Or when it gets into some classrooms, sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. But there's some classrooms where it's like, no, there's clearly what the class is doing. You're going to have to rule out the trainer. The trainer's always going to be ahead of everybody. They're going to everybody goes to lunch and they're going to go run through the module while everybody's at lunch. So they're going to be an outlier because they're doing detections ahead of everybody. And then there's the TAs who are helping them who sometimes are amazing and sometimes do not care. And they're on their phone just watching TikTok until somebody needs them. They're an outlier in another direction, right? So we wanted to profile, look at this classroom and say, oh, there's the cluster of what they should be doing. What is this person doing? What's the one way up there doing? So we started profiling these classrooms, right? And I just really want to reiterate this, that doing illegal stuff on the Black Hat network is still very much illegal. And that does roll up into venue security, can roll up into police, can roll beyond that when people do stuff. And this has been a wild number. The reason we brought in Mike Spicer, because he's a genius on Wi-Fi, but we had people bringing in man-in-the-middle devices and little batteries and planning them around to try to get people's credentials and access and systems. It is still very much illegal. Again, theoretically attacking a police precinct or payment processors or things like that. These things are still illegal. Those are the outliers I want to know inside of those classrooms, right? So the next one was the backbone. Now, backbone is substantially easier. Why? Because it's consistent. All your APs are going where? To the controller. Whether that be on-prem or cloud or both, they're doing the same things and they look the same. So you have this entire grouping of Wi-Fi and then one not. Okay, well, threat hunting becomes, I'm a true believer that threat hunting is looking for the unknown, and the moment you can make a detection for it, just make a detection for it and quit threat hunting for it. But when it comes to things like this, I don't know if that's good or bad. That could be fine. I don't know, but now I'm going to go look, and it makes my job easier. I don't need to go look at that many things. They're all doing the same thing. What's that one doing that's different from everybody else? Broken AP that somebody had to go manually get into. Maybe it's benign. Maybe it's someone actually attacker got into, right? The outliers are substantially easier when it comes to consistent things. So yeah, backbone, APs, etc. There's a good story about this one where we saw some traffic in our logs, and it looked like the access point, I think there was 2 access points. So 2 outliers here that looked like they were connecting to malicious command and control. Now that's a problem because that's our infrastructure, and that's the thing I actually care about. You come infected with a laptop, I want to help you, I want to let you know you're infected, but I don't necessarily care if you do anything about it. That's your job, right? Your IT, your company to resolve. If my backbone's compromised and they now can do other things with that, I care a lot. Like this was stop everything, we pull a point person from different teams and we're all in this like, huddle group in an IR channel and we're gonna solve this. I'll give you the short version of it. Apparently, you can create a malformed packet and you can flip your source and desk because you can change things on packets, right? And then you can send that at things, and the trainer was teaching students to do things like that. And a certain AP that we had decided that instead of just being like, I don't know what the hell this is because you put it in the wrong direction, I'm not going to route this, it decided, well, I don't know, I guess I'm just going to own this, and I'm going to send this request as if it was me to the internet. Makes 0 sense. I don't feel like that should be a thing. They did end up filing a ticket with the company to resolve that. I don't know if that ever did get resolved. But we legitimately thought our backbone was compromised for a minute. Now, the minute was like 2 hours. It was not, it's not a minute. We had to validate, really validate. And in a way, it kind of was. Our AP did communicate with a malicious C2. But no traffic could come back in, there was no reciprocal, and it never should have passed that traffic on. Like, there's 0 scenario in my head where that would be a thing. So we did get spun up on that, but outliers become substantially more beneficial on that. I don't have to look, only these 2 APs. Why only these 2 APs? Oh, because there's a mesh network and those 2 APs are servicing the same class where they're all lobbing the same jacked up PCAP at this AP, and that AP was just doing I don't know what, right? But getting an outlier and answering that question is way faster than is all the APs in the backbone compromised? What, like spinning up and going in all different directions of where are they in the system? How far are they burrowed in, right? It's like, no, there's 2 APs in question here. We got to dig in on these 2 APs. I don't care if we have to go yank them offline right now. We're going to solve this. But doing 130 APs, problematic, right? Okay, so then the next was beacons. And beacons is all these classes teaching all these people how to make all these tunnels and all these beacons, especially with AI stuff, like let's go make our own beacon. And they have their own beacon, right? So we take those and then again, smarter than me, the maths are gonna math. And then they come up with probability scores based on the mathing. And it comes back and says, yeah, no, like that's a beacon. And those are pretty sure beacon. And then there's some that are like, these aren't beacons, that's just something that maybe is interesting, you might want to look at. So then we started tracking beacons, and then we started filtering this out, because guess what? Every AP connected to a cloud controller is a beacon. That's command and control to your AP. But we knew we want it to be there, and we paid money for that to be there, versus there's a beacon on our AP that does not go to a destination of ours, right? So those were our top 3, and we hit all those objectives. We are doing this at the conference. So cool. Then it's how do we take this further? All right, so introduce our overlords, which is AI, kind of the point why a lot of us are here. And how do we actually take AI and not just be this buzzword of, oh, AI is in every single tool and it can solve world hunger of all your security products, but actually let's make this usable and impactful to answer questions that we are spending a lot of human energy and mental power to answer, especially ones that we do the same thing in the same order every time. And I understand you're going to say hey, you could have a SOAR, it could automate parts of that, and we were already doing a lot of that. Let's get into some of these examples of what we're doing. I wanted to improve our alert fidelity. Again, I get all these alerts. Are these alerts, do they matter to me? We have machine learning that's already profiling and tossing some of these out and saying, look at this. But what's the fidelity of that? We ended up using AI has replaced the ML for our classrooms. That is not a true statement for the other use cases, but it is for our classrooms. It doesn't mean AI is going to suddenly magically replace everything you have, but it has replaced something at the Black Hat NOC. And then also registration system. This is a thing I care a lot about. This is our web server that when people reg, this is where my name and email address is because I regged at Black Hat, all the people who are attending. We focus and pay a lot attention on our registration system. So one of the examples of what we did is we fed the overlords every classroom the name and the description of every single classroom. So part of Black Hat is they submit like, this is the thing I want to do my curriculum on, and then they have this giant like, here's everything you're going to learn in this 2-day or 4-day training. Well, we took that and said, all right, that's our knowledge base. This is the things that we expect you to be doing in this classroom are the things that are outlined by the trainer. So we fed that in. And then we did things like this. We ended up, I have all the detail of the actual prompt here in a second, but the overall goal was, let's feed it the classroom information, and then let's have it take things like, is this from the same classroom, going to the same destinations, sometimes one, sometimes multiple destinations, and doing the same type of thing. And thing being the detection or alert or whatever, and then is that expected for this curriculum? If all of those things are true, then escalate this. And where we escalate, we dump them into a local collection. Our local collection is Palo Alto's XIM, is the central storage that we use for all of our bits. So this tool was running on the network traffic, come to this conclusion, and it would send that over to where we do our workflow, our IR, our ticketing, our management, right? If, yes, it's a detection, same classroom, going to the same destination, is expected in the curriculum, don't care. I do not care. That's what they're paid there to do. That's expected. And if you could read it, essentially like, here, I got to zoom in actually, hang on. This was one example of one, right? CrowdStrike, Extreme, here's the alert. This is a rat malware, and the curriculum hacking cloud infrastructure does not explicitly mention the use of this. The module has a wide range of testing, blah, 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 blah. Essentially, it came to the conclusion of, I don't know. It could, well, it's not in the curriculum, but it seems like it's okay, but because it's not in the curriculum, a human should look at it, because that's how we designate the prompt to do it. Err on the side of, we'd rather have a person look at it because I got 15 people there, right? Where in your organization, maybe that's one that you're going to give it a Sev 3 and push it down, right? And this was one part of the prompt. What we learned through this scenario is it was better to break up some of the prompts instead of combining them. It just had better outcomes and actually became much more repeatable and reliable. When we try to stuff them all together, sometimes it was just like, I skipped 5 steps. What are you going to do about it? I'm the overlord. Here's your result. And so we ran this through a lot of use cases and trials, and I have these prompts. So this is the course curriculum question. Give me an answer, give me a confidence, and give me an explanation as to your reasoning of why you did it. Then all of that ends up getting submitted, and then we can go and look at it and be like, yes, that should be escalated. We should do something about that because everybody else is doing this and Bob's over there doing that, right? Here's the second part of that, which is the final recommendation. So it takes that information. Based on information, I want you to think this through and give us a recommendation on the outcome of whether this should be escalated or not. So it's the second half of that first one. These two are tied together. Okay, so after that, we moved on to our backbone. In our backbone, we know some things, and that's why most of these are blocked out, because these are things we don't necessarily want y'all to know. And that specifically is operating systems, database types, services, patch levels, the things that make up these hosts or entities, what makes this thing the thing that it is, right? So what we ended up doing is we give it a playbook to let it ignore or escalate that thing, and we ask it questions to explain. One of those is we feed it all the CVE information, and then we say, hey, it lobbed this attack at our reg web server. Is it even possible? Is it even potentially vulnerable to that, right? I mean, some of that makes sense in our head, like, oh, it's a Linux system and it's a Windows vulnerability. That's never gonna execute. But then you get more nuanced of that, and you get down to what's the version of the client you're running on the thing. And I'm gonna say the word Nginx and Apache because that's pretty safe. To say all web servers are mostly in those two buckets. What's its version? What's its patch level? What extensions and things that are applied on it? We know those things because we own those things. We feed that into it and we say, hey, you know and own these things. Would this thing ever be vulnerable to it? Right? And in this example, it said, this alert does not suggest any a threat and can just be ignored. Like it lobbed, what is this, an Fortinet vulnerability? Like it lobbed a thing at it that was not even potentially vulnerable to that. So who cares about that detection, right? And then we went further with that. Not only is it the CVE, but then we apply all the other information, operating system, database, everything else about it, and try to give me an answer the same way I would answer it. Oh, I got a legit alert. That's a legit alert that came in. They lobbed a real attack at it, right? Never vulnerable, software is not exposed to it, so who cares? That took this giant bucket of things we spent human energy on and was just like, oh, there's 3 left. Let's just look at those 3. They're super interesting. And in one of these scenarios on the one that they was saying escalate, essentially it was like, it's not vulnerable, however, it did send a ton of 400 requests, which is abnormal to the rest of the traffic on this server, so you might want to look at it. Either it's something broke or they're doing something weird, right? So that's also interesting. Even in that maybe bucket was super interesting. It's saying, well, it's not vulnerable, but this one differs from everybody else hitting this server. All right, prompt of that. Good luck reading that in this room. But this is the prompt on how we feed it the CVE exploit attempts, what we wanted to know, to understand, to make that decision. All right, so 6 o'clock, y'all want to be doing what y'all want to do. So I'm already starting to think, and we have these smart brain people starting to think, what do we want to do in the future with this? Where do we go? And this last one, that last one I showed you, that was the first time that was live was the last show. So like we're right on the edge of what we're doing and pushing this forward. We've had machine learning in there for like a year and a half. The AI bits on top of it, Nacho, I'll show you his pretty face in a minute because he's the brain of the math of a lot of this. He's like, would this be a good idea if I did this? And I was like, hell yeah, that'd be a good idea. Is that actually going to work? He's like, let's find out. And then there's some notes in here. He's like, well, I tried this tool and it didn't work, and I switched to this one. I have all these notes. We've captured them for y'all. But one of the big things, I have a screenshot here right after this slide, is in Palo Alto's XIM, which, again, I don't even know what it costs because we get it free for Black Hat. But we send all the data to it. And by sending all the data to it with some of these roll-ups of AI and ML decisions, we can auto-close things. So Black Hat positive, auto-close it. I don't care about it. We don't have to spend any human capital on it. Boom, matches these things, gets into here, auto-close. The mean time to resolution on a legit detection, like 6 seconds, right? That's amazing. Now, I wish that was true for all the things, but that's true for the things that we can remove that noise. And that's the part I want you to take away for your organization. Like, if you can tune and reduce your noise, you can then focus on the right things. And understanding you don't have this magic Black Hat positive that you can get rid of, but yet you do, right? What's the most critical thing to your organization? That's a different thing for every organization. But whatever that thing or things is, that's where you focus all your energy and attention on. and do your detection engineering and tuning and tune that until that is impactful, where the thing that comes in there is always critical. Even if it is, I caught IT or I caught security doing something, I want to know on those hosts and systems. Okay, anyway, Palo Alto's XIM. We also, now that we have all these other data sets going into the same place, I call this context. Getting the context of all of our DNS, all of our network, everything from the firewall, everything from our endpoints of the things that we have, all the things from the iPads for registration systems, everything from exactly like what switch and AP that somebody's connected to, everything that I can get together to make a better decision, we have all that together. And so we're trying to think through how do we make that more impactful beyond what we're already doing. Because I think there's some answers, because when I ask the question, when I get this next phase of alert, I start asking those questions. Like, well, what's the DNS that it go to? What AP is that person connected to? What other APs have they connected to throughout the conference? Do I have to send Mike Spicer to go find them? Right? Like, I start asking these questions. We can have it start asking these questions. And even if it's not a direct answer, it can be like, escalate or nah. Getting all that context together. Lots of use case ideas. One of these that always comes up is like, people show up to the conference infected. Right? Which is an interesting thing, because that means they're been infected for who knows how long, and we do what we can to try to tell them that. And we're looking at better ways to even improve that. And so that's kind of this bucket of like, how do we get better at telling people that they're infected? Sometimes it's easy. You're in classroom there's 20 people in there. I know your name based on your traffic. Hey, who's this person? Let's have a chat with them. Well, if you're on the expo hall floor with 20 other thousand people, is it worth it? I don't know. Maybe it's just a vendor showing us how to hack a box thing and it's actually fine. They know they're infected. They're doing a presentation on being infected. I don't know. That's the interesting about Black Hat. In a corporate environment, this would all matter. Well, maybe not. Guest Wi-Fi, maybe you don't care. Right? Make sure guest Wi-Fi can't talk to prod. Once that's a true statement, then guest Wi-Fi, who cares? So we're thinking about some use case ways to do that. Lots of clear text information flows across Black Hat, and that seems weird, right? Like all security folks, we're all security folks, especially during the training days, right? Later, okay, maybe the marketing folks are there running the booth, doing whatever, but training days, like all security folks, and there's so much clear text in there, right? Like it shouldn't be the case. One of those, Spicer did a presentation on VPNs. There's a VPN mess. There's split tunnel mess. Y'all get corporate laptops that have split tunnels already enabled on them. These IP addresses, when you get to the Kansas office, you connect and you can just access your systems to make it easy. Well, that IP address might be the same as our subnet, right? I don't know. We picked ours already. You picked yours. But sometimes those collide. People show up, and suddenly they are routing all their traffic through us. Things that should not be routed through us. But that would be a true statement if you're at like a McDonald's or any other Starbucks, any Wi-Fi that you're on. If you're matching on the same split tunnel hard-coded IP address and you show up, you're gonna send it all to us. You're gonna send it all to them. And thankfully, we don't do anything bad with it. We try to find you and say, hey, this is messed up. If you're at Starbucks and somebody else is also in your network traffic, that might not be a true statement. But you've got a green checkbox in the corner that says you're VPN, so you're good. I've heard so many people tell me that. But look, it's got a green checkbox. I'm like, oh. Look, here's your mortgage information. Right? Like, why would you do a mortgage at Black Hat? Good question. It has happened. That is a true story. Not naming names. Okay. So we're trying to see what we can do to speed that up. And a lot of times it comes down to something as simple as, this is one that's like one of my goals to improve in the future, is you get a lot of applications that they're good. Their login's good, they got good certificate, everything looks good, and then there'll be a post with basic auth. And basic auth is, here's your clear text cred. Now, I'm not a criminal, so I don't take that and try to log into that application, but I'm 99% sure that I could take that and log into the application, because I do know your username and password from that basic auth. And they look like legit login credentials. And there's a ton of applications that do everything right and mess up some part of their code. And the code is like, the last one is uploading an avatar. You log in the application and you're like, you know what? Whatever this default one is, I'm going to make it a dinosaur. And you upload a dinosaur picture to make yourself feel happy inside, and you've given your creds over to anybody on the network. Does that software vendor even know, do they even know that they're doing that? Probably not. So I want to do more at actually even reporting stuff like that back to them to just try to overall make security better. And I want to use some AI to do some bits of that. If nothing more than writing up the freaking report on it. Here's our disclosure thing, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm sure you're going to ignore and never reply, but at least I sent it, right? So I want to speed some of that up. The next phase also that's already being started on, this part, is moving to agentic. This is creating AI agents that will create paths, right? Instead of having, these are the prompts that I showed you, this prompt, then this prompt. It's like, this is the prompt based on what you know now. Choose your own adventure. You could have this path or this path or this path, but the overall goal is thing. And then the agents will choose that adventure, get to the next level, then it could have 3 variables or 20 more variables, right? So this is agent flow, and there's pieces of that that can make this substantially easier, and parts of this is already in motion because it looks like it's going to be way better. Okay, so this is that screenshot I showed you. It's going to be hard to see on that. This one just washed out. Over there is a little easier. This was from the last show. Number of alerts that came in. Number of things that we said based on those alerts that we call incidents. I know that's a touchy subject when it comes to CISOs and lawyers and whatever, but it's not a black hat, so we just called that an incident. Based on the incidents, we then automate bits of those. We resolve bits of those, and some of these are black hat positive, auto close. This thing came in, same classroom. We answered those questions with AI, and we said, I don't care. Don't want to spend any energy on it. Close it out. These ones, I care. These 3 with a C next to it, I will do everything and stop everything to work on those things, right? This is what I care the most about. Does this mean you necessarily need all these tools to start? No. You do want to have your stuff in a central location that you can do that, but you also could go and pull those through API. Just have a caveat with that. I worked with an organization that did that. That's a cool model. Make sure you have your time the same. Right? If you put them in a central spot, typically your time will be the same, especially if it's from the same building. It gets a little interesting when you have tunnels that go out other places. But if you're going to API pull in, make sure your time's the same. And whatever you think the right answer is, you're wrong. It's UTC. Just use UTC. You never want to be in a compelling event, think you found something interesting, or vice versa, and you missed it because you're in some Excel sheet spreadsheet hell trying to line up time zones and drift from time. So NTP, UTC, that's the only answer. Do that on everything. If you take nothing away from this talk, you forget everything about it, nothing about AI. Just go and set your NTP and set all your time to UTC. And if somebody at corporate's super wild about something like home office, whatever, fine. You don't have the political equity to solve that today, but get them all the same. Everything needs to be the same when you're in that event so you can actually answer questions quick and don't waste a ton of time doing the wrong thing. Okay, this is the smart math guy. He didn't want me to put this in here, so that's why I did it, right? So this is Nacho. He's like a chief data scientist, or he's just a super math nerd, and he's great. And all this nerdy bits at the end, this is his bits, and he's like, people might want to know these. And I was like, yeah, I get it. So if you want these nerdy bits, there's nerdy bits of how things are working and integrating. If you're gonna take a picture, take it, because I'm going to the next one. There's more nerdy bits. More nerdy bits on this one. You can ask me afterwards. Okay, done with the nerdy bits. Any quick questions, and I have a final closing thought. We're doing all right. It's okay if you don't. Yeah, you.
You implement SSL encryption, and you know what the future of that looks like with Quick and all that.
Do we implement what? SSL decryption. Yeah, so we don't have the luxury of having control of the endpoints, right? So picture this, like if you're in some environments, they call this Overwatch. We're essentially Overwatch. Now, our registration system, we control all of that, right? Everything with Reg, we control. The iPads, the check-ins, that's ours. We control that. We do have EDR agents on those. Those are ours. But if you show up to the conference, You're not letting me install something on your machine, right? So I will reverse the question. Do you use TLS on your machine, and which version of that machine? And do you use Google Quick? You use 1.3 with ECH, right? Like there's a lot of things that can remove that, or a simple VPN if it's configured correctly, right? There's ways that you can keep your traffic secure depending on the profile and what you care about and what you want to see. And I recommend you do those things, right? There's sites you can check. You can run your own. I'm a big advocate of Zeek, if you didn't know. It's free, it's open source. Suricata, it's free, open source. Go Docker, spin one up, and look at your traffic. That's how you're gonna know. Because a lot of people think they're good, especially security people. We got this, we're good. Now, if you don't wanna do Zeek or Suricata, freaking use Wireshark, use TCP dump. There's so many options to get a view of what your machine is doing. Single machine, but if you're trying to do like VPN validation at a corporate office, it gets a little harder with TCP dump or Wireshark. That's when maybe Wireshark is possible. You have Palo Alto Firewall and you can dump between the two. Great, do that. Go look at that traffic. In fact, he was just showing me, AI can look at that traffic for you and it can answer some of those questions for you, including a PCAP file. See if you are leaking out anything you don't want people to know. I know pretty much what every organization somebody works at. Anybody have any guess besides Mike Spicer? Don't answer. How would I know with being Overwatch with no agent on your machine what company you work for? Say, I can't hear over there.
Sorry, domain on your emails?
Domain on your emails? Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'm not seeing your emails. Unfortunately, I do see some emails. SMTP is still not dead somehow. I should not be seeing your emails. So that's not typically the number one way. SSL certificates would be in the past a whole lot more when you had your own whatever the Windows version of your own Exchange server in the cloud and they all had their own. Now they're all going to 365 or Gmail. And so I don't have it in that scenario. Ooh, access point registration pins. Now you're getting to Spicer land. I don't even know if that's a true statement, Mike. You'd have to answer that. You two should chat after that. All right, anybody else? Hostname? Sometimes hostname. Macs are just going to say like Pope's Mac. Right? So sometimes hostname, it could be. Some domains actually will have that in there. When they register, we do not link the registration database to all of our visibility. We have to make a special request to the owners of that when we need that. And that special request comes in like, oh, this dude is like wrecked. Like their machine is so wrecked. Is there somebody in the registration with this name? Yes, there is. They're presenting. They're on stage right now. Then I have to go down and talk to them. Another true story, that's a much longer story we don't have time for. I was like, are you running a malware lab demo? Sorry, I missed it. Was it? And he's like, no, I'm a CTO of a thing. Step over here, let's have a conversation. But, what did he say? But I have this EDR installed. And I was like, for all I know, it's sending a ton of alerts too. But I don't know, but you're definitely wrecked. Please, you probably shouldn't use your email. UPnP. Well, I mean, if you, like your house stuff, like you're auto-connecting to it. All right, we'll give away the spoiler for the number one way. How do you normally communicate day to day at your job? Besides email not the old people, everybody else. Slack or some other chat application. Those have your domain in it. Talking about older email back in the day, you would have your own like Exchange and Microsoft would have that. Your Slack has that. So typically, I know where you work. And that is super beneficial for me to help to tell you that you're wrecked. And there was one scenario where there's a blog post on this where it was like a legit North Korea APT for a security company. And it was just their machines, just those four. And they had a booth downstairs, and we went and talked to them, right? They didn't know. Well, as far as I know, they didn't know. Hopefully they got that cleaned up. But we were able to identify them through their Slack. That's something to think about if you go to a conference or anywhere else. Think about those things that you're beaconing out to that are identifiers. And if you don't want somebody to know those things, control the type of traffic you're doing for those environments. And if you don't care, you don't care. But just FYI, that's one of the easiest ways to do it. Any other questions? Yes?
Okay, in the 10 years that you were at Black Hat, what's the highest escalated incident that you've seen? As like, how far did we go? Did we get to FBI? Did we get to CIA?
So the question was, what's the highest escalated thing that we've seen? And unfortunately, I can't answer that one. That one had lawyers involved in multiple countries. There's absolutely, like, let's say Mandalay Bay, when we're working there, we work with their security team, right? We debrief with them in the morning. We have conversations about what we're seeing, what they're seeing. And people think they're so clever, like, I'm just going to jump off the Black Hat network and jump on Mandalay network. Yeah, right. Like, we're a team together defending that. We know that's still you, right? Like, it's still you. In fact, they know more that it's still you than we know that it's still you because they have all your registration and the cameras and everything else, right? We don't have that. We're just like this. And they will watch you walk with a pineapple on your back through the entire casino. Any other questions? Yes?
You ever found stuff that, like an incident or something, you couldn't find the person, you couldn't solve it, you couldn't shut it down?
Yes. The question was, have we ever found something that was interesting on somebody's device that we couldn't find them? I guess the answer is not. The answer is like yes, but there was always something more important. Does that make sense? Like, it's a burrow in your head. You want to do this thing. You have plans to do this thing, but then something else comes up, and then you go back to do that thing, and no, they're no longer in the APs anymore. If it's the most important thing and nothing else to do, Mike Spicer will find you. We had to go chase some dude, and we'll find you if it's the most important thing. But there absolutely are people in the NOC who can't let things go. I've been tearing out registration, and there's a guy, Ben, just walking around looking like, what are you doing? He's like, I got to find that device. It's in here somewhere. And I'm like, we're done, dude. The equipment's gone. He's like, I know it's around here. I have to find it. Like, there is a real part of being a threat hunter of trying to solve a riddle or a puzzle. And those people thrive and succeed at it. And sometimes it eats at them when they can't solve that puzzle. All right. So I'll end with this, besides my NTP. Okay. That is, use the right tool for the right job. If your objective is, I'm going to use AI to solve everything, you're going to have a hard time. It's not there yet. Will be there in the future? TBD. I don't know. Right? A lot of people are banking a lot of VC money on it. We'll see what happens. Funny enough, there was a class called Detecting, what was it, AI Detections was the class that was being taught. And the funny part was we were just getting a bunch of Suricata hits. So a simple detection sometimes is perfect and works great. So apply the right one. Search-based alerts, any SIM typically will have this. Once you narrowed on the thing you care about, you save that thing and say, alert me if this thing happens. That's super easy. Most analysts can figure that out very easy if somebody teaches them they can do it. That alone can be highly impactful, can have great correlation rules. You got a Splunk box and you can do that, you're going to have a good time, right? You are a detection engineer. You can go nuts. Use those. Sometimes just simple detections, Suricata detections, Yara detections. Sometimes just a straight IOC in some scenarios are useful. Depends on the scenario. You want high fidelity. That's your objective here. Then you get down to behavioral. More of that correlation. More of a, I waited and saw this amount of traffic before I did this type of thing. Then ML. Sometimes ML is super useful and impactful for what you want it for. And then as we walk through, AI can be your friend in some scenarios. Or in other scenarios, because it's recorded, I can't name names. There's a tool with full built-in AI. And in the middle of me asking it questions, it said, I don't know. I am not a security tool. To which it's literally what it is. That's what it's being sold to do. AI can and will let you down if you apply it in the wrong places or you don't understand how to do it correctly. And then last, don't be a Bob, whether you're at a conference like this or Black Hat. Don't do malicious stuff. Be mean to people. And if you do, I guess be a lot better at it. That's all I got.